All right, let's jump straight into this wildly complex explainer. We're looking at a story that bridges two entirely different universes, incredibly messy time travel, and a brilliant cabbage-born scientist named Vorlon. If you are into stories where the fate of the multiverse hangs by a thread and where the solution somehow involves a mix of cosmic physics and hallucinogenic space plants, you are definitely in for a treat today.
So, I know this source material sounds absolutely chaotic right out of the gate, but here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. The space-time rift, 2. Journey to Gibber, 3. Vorlon and the Kaboom, 4. Baina and Tereth's trap, and finally, 5. The Handroid invasion. Let's systematically break down how time-traveling Earthlings tie directly into a multiverse-ending crisis.
Okay, Section 1, the space-time rift, a cosmic crisis. We're kicking things off in what we'll just call the normal universe, aboard the time-traveling Timagor ship with a pretty eclectic crew. Artix, the brilliant alien scientist, Joey, his immensely powerful brother, and Michelle, an Earthling who basically thinks she's just on one incredible, unending drug trip.
Now they're just looking out into the cosmos, right? And bam! They stumble upon this literal universe-ending anomaly. It's a massive, pinkish-purple rift tearing through space. To figure out when this thing actually started and what's causing it, Artix has to manipulate time itself, using his ship's advanced crystal configuration to scrub backward and forward through history. And this sequence of events is just a perfect illustration of the timeline chaos we're dealing with here. You've got Artix seriously rewinding 230 years to investigate exactly when the rift began. But meanwhile, Michelle somehow convinces them to jump 500 years into the future to an uninhabited planet just so she can harvest an illegal stash of giant space weed she planted. I mean, the juxtaposition of this cosmic disaster with her wildly inappropriate priorities is exactly what makes this crew so fascinating. Anyway, when they finally return to the present, they're hovering at the rift's edge over a totally decimated inhabited planet.
And in stark contrast to Michelle's little comedic side quest, what they find on the planet below is pure nightmare fuel. They discover these things called handroids. Imagine massive, 9-foot-tall creatures made entirely of hundreds of reaching, grasping hands, all supported by a single pair of size 15 feet. Yeah, you heard that right. And these monsters are literally down there devouring the planet's remaining humans. Which brings us to Section 2, Journey to Gibber, the other universe. Artix realizes he needs highly specialized scanning equipment to stop this rift and these monsters, and the only place to get it is a planet called Gibber, which sits entirely in the other universe. Oh, and to get there, the crew has to travel straight through a black hole. No big deal, right?
Well, these two realities couldn't be more different. In our normal universe, space is black, physics make logical sense, and human senses function, normally. But in the other universe, space itself twists in colors that literally don't exist on Earth. Physics are completely bizarre, communication is entirely telepathic, and honestly, it is built to just completely break a standard human mind.
So when they actually land on Gibber, it is an absolute sensory overload. Stepping out onto the planet feels like floating through jello of every conceivable flavor. You literally hear colors and see music. The cities are built out of giant vases and pots sitting on massive shelves. Even the dirt you walk on, it's made of talking, puzzle-piece faces of elderly people who actively complain when you step on them. And the native people just look like scribbled lines constantly shifting in color. It is wild.
But Michelle, our resident Earthling, handles this sheer weirdness perfectly. Instead of going completely insane like a normal human absolutely would, she just drops this hilarious line as she casually navigates the chaos. Dude, I feel like Alice in Acid Land. For her, this whole thing is just the ultimate trip.
But here's where it gets genuinely funny. Joey introduces her to a local gibberish hallucinogen called Thrilka. So get this. In a universe this incredibly backward, consuming their local hallucinogen actually has a reverse effect on a human. It makes Michelle completely sober. The chaotic colors and noises fade away, and suddenly, Gibber just looks exactly like a normal, boring Earth landscape to her. Moving on to Section 3, Vorlon and the Kaboom, the Prodigy's investigation. Shifting our focus within this other universe, we meet the true crux of our narrative, Vorlon. This is exactly where our story shifts from a quirky space adventure into a really high-stakes multiverse thriller.
So, meet Vorlon. Unlike the other scribbled line people on this planet, Vorlon is a brilliant scientific mind. He was literally born from a flowering, cabbage-like Tigger plant to his loving parents Vorkal and Longer.
And while everyone else on Gibber just relies lazily on their telepathic powers to alter reality, Vorlon is the guy actually asking why things work. Joey, who is searching for his brother's reincarnated memories, ends up teaming up with Vorlon to act as his assistant.
Vorlon's natural curiosity leads him to investigate a massive cosmic disturbance, and he uncovers something called the New Kaboom. It is this insane, highly commercialized project run by two villainous scientists named Bina and Tereth. They're essentially hosting business seminars to sell bespoke, custom-made planets to the ultra-rich, and they're building them entirely outside the natural outer limits of space.
And the steps Bina and Tereth are taking to achieve this are truly terrifying. First, they extract matter, energy, and even the thoughts from victims in the old universe. Then they push all this stolen material past the dimensional boundaries of space, and finally, they fast-track evolution. Vorlon travels out there on his flying carpet and sees these custom planets firsthand, like a planet made entirely of pure gold, or a world composed completely of transparent lamp fuel. They are literally manufacturing whole galaxies in a single day.
Section 4. Bena and Tereth's Trap, the Dark Creators. Vorlon is smart, so he quickly realizes these bespoke planets are not just flashy real estate developments, they're cosmic abominations that are actively draining the multiverse of its stability.
Right at the center of the New Kaboom, Vorlon discovers these horrifying creations. He finds forests where the trees don't grow leaves. No, they grow clusters of tiny reaching hands as buds. He finds planets where the clouds are made of living, colorful geometric shapes fed by ink like volcanoes. And all of this madness is being powered by massive energy cores that are just tearing apart the fabric of reality.
But Bina and Tereth, they are already 10 steps ahead of him. Bina drops his absolute bombshell, revealing his true motive. He doesn't just want to build fancy planets. He wants to build an army of these twisted monsters. And he wants the genius Vorlon to lead them.
So they set this incredibly cruel trap. They lure Vorlon's aging parents into the New Kaboom and imprison them inside living geometric shapes. Naturally, Vorlon rushes to save them, but in doing so, he causes a massive earthquake that explodes the planet, knocking him out cold. Bena and Tereth seize the moment. Actually, scratch that. They don't just seize the moment, they completely rewrite Vorlon's mind. They brainwash him into believing he is Bitar, their loyal son and the commander of their dark forces. Just like that, the brilliant scientist becomes their absolute greatest weapon.
Finally, Section 5. The Handroid Invasion, Worlds Collide. Now, let's tie all these crazy threads back together and see how Vorlon's tragedy directly causes the crisis back in the normal universe.
So here is the direct cause and effect of it all. The colossal theft of matter and energy required for the New Kaboom is literally what tears open the space-time rift. The immense gravitational pull of Benena and Tereth's energy core draws that rift directly toward the inhabited planet Arctic's crew originally found. And those hands growing on the trees? Well, they grew into those massive handroids we talked about earlier, escaping right through the rift to feed on the humans of the normal universe. Which leads straight to an epic showdown on the decimated planet. Joey realizes the danger and is forced into a brutal, completely heroic fight. Stripped down to his boxer shorts, he's using sheer physical strength, blasting blue laser beams from his eyes and throwing concussive energy blasts just to protect Artix and Michelle from being torn apart by this relentless handroid swarm.
And the incredible takeaway here is how even Michelle's completely ridiculous, drug-fueled subplot becomes a literal lifesaver. Right in the middle of the battle, she gets bitten in the abdomen by a handroid, but because her system is so heavily infused with future spaceweed and that reality-altering gibberish threlka, the monster swallows the bite, shrieks in absolute discomfort, and just backs off entirely. Her tainted blood literally repulses the creatures.
Taking advantage of that chaos, Artix finally pieces this massive cosmic puzzle together. By analyzing the monsters, he pinpoints a specific meeting place on the planet that is powered by the New Kaboom's core. He realizes that the source of the Handroid invasion and the rift itself points directly back to Bena and Tolereth's machinations over in the other universe. Which leaves us right on the edge of our seats with one final, incredibly provocative question. With the brilliant Vorlon now brainwashed and acting as the enemy commander Bitar, and Joey relying purely on brute force to survive against infinite swarms of monsters, how on earth can this chaotic crew possibly close the rift and save the multiverse? It's a terrifying cliffhanger, for sure, and it shows just how intricately these two universes are woven together. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Keep exploring.